Hey, it's episode 57 and nobody told me with Mike and Blaine. I'm Cashflow Mike Mylan, and that is my partner, Blaine Birch. Blaine, what's up, my man?
Oh, doing pretty good. It looks like we both have different backgrounds today. You from another city and mine because we have a contractor doing some work. Hopefully they don't show up to clean up while we're doing this, but I think that they'll be after we're done. And so it looks like a garage sale down here. And you are in what city?
I'm in Arlington, Texas. And what's really cool, it's never happened to me before. I was invited to do an interview on Biz TV, right? It's one of their premier programs. They interview like 3 to 4 business owners or people like me. And it's like an 8-minute real fast interview. But I tell you what, I didn't know this. Biz TV is in 28 million households.
Wow.
And I forget how many. I'm going to say 20, 30. I could be low. So Biz TV, don't smack me. Major markets, right? So they're on local television in some major markets, video on demand, lots of cool little local shows. I mean, they probably have a lineup of around 20 shows right now. So yeah, real cool studio. I mean, the in studio. I mean, you ever been to a professional like TV studio? I mean, that's where I was at today. So yeah, a little intimidating. Normally I don't get nervous. I was nervous, man. I was nervous today.
Yeah, I've been on a couple of times. It is a really different experience, especially in studio, right? Like it's kind of bizarre. And you know what? If they keep growing, they might actually catch up to Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine and our massive audience.
There's where you can really see the difference in scope and scale, right? Because they got radio network, they got video on demand, they got live streaming TV, and I guess my episode airs tomorrow, and they're going to give me a live link. If anybody wants to watch it live, it'll go like 3 times, I guess, during the day. So I'm going to post it right here on mikeandblaine.com. Because it's just fun. It was a real fun interview. And I don't get starstruck, but because I had watched like 5 episodes of Scott Miller's interview style before this to kind of get the feel for it.
Yeah.
Oh, he made me nervous. oh, shit, there's Scott Miller.
Oh, man. Funny. You know what? He should be nervous around you. Cashflow Mike, man. That's your celebrity.
Said, oh my God, Cashflow Mike's here. They actually did say that.
Nice. That's awesome.
We exchanged books. I think here's Scott's book. He wrote a book for small business owners called Media Matters.
Nice.
It's about how to master, and use leverage media for your business, man. So I'm going to look through it, and guess what? I even got it signed. Check this out. Even got it signed.
Nice.
Going right up next to my pandemic cash flow book.
Yeah, that one's pure value right there. we just keep exchanging signed books back and forth and impress ourselves.
So, that's right.
What are you drinking, man?
Oh, yes. Speaking of impressing me, because I'm in Dallas, all right. So I'm going to a football game, the Arkansas A&M football game on Saturday. And it's being held at AT&T Stadium. That's where the Dallas Cowboy plays.
Nice.
Dallas Cowboys play. So I thought it would be fun. Troy Aikman, one of the legendary quarterbacks for the Dallas Cowboys, had come out with a beer. And so I bought his beer that he just came out with this year. And I'm going to drink that on the show. So Troy Aikman's 8. And who actually is the bottler here? Oh, 8 Brewing, right? So it's 8 Brewing out of Austin, Texas, is where it is. So anyway, it's a light beer, but it's kind of cool, right? It's got the cowboy kind of colors. His number 8, his number was 8. Oh, it looks like an 8 too. All the way around.
Yeah, nice.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of a cool
slick. Yeah, I just had to jot down the name so I remember what the name of the brewery is. So today I've got a brewery out of Vancouver, British Columbia, so just on the other side of the Rockies from us. It's called the Hypha Project, but it's an IPA, but look at the artwork on this.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It is just stunning. And I've got a few of their beers, and the cans are all very different artists. I think obviously artists, not just absolutely stunning. Just an IPA from Hypha Project. And I took a quick glance at their website before this because I wasn't familiar with them. And check them out. It's called Hypha Project, but I think they do more than just the beer. They seem to have some sort of community, I'm not sure, events, impact, something like that. I found it really neat, but the can I just had to grab because it was just amazing. So very cool brewery out of BC.
Yeah, let me translate for Texans. That's Hypha Project, not project.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd even spell it, hey? You'd be like, what? That's a letter we don't even have in our alphabet.
That's funny. All right. So, hey, quick shout out. If you didn't get the news last week, if you didn't get the news, we do have our first major sponsor, My Life in a Book. And we're going to talk about them about midway through the show. But man, every time I look at their website and I think about what I can do with their product, I'm more and more impressed. MyLifeInABook.com. Go check it out. Use Nobody as a promo code for 10% off.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk about them later in the show, and very cool. I'm really excited to have them. So it's yeah, hang tight and check them out.
All right, so let's talk about today's topic. Guess what? We're doing Spencer Fry again, right? I don't think we've ever did back to back,
nope.
Consultants, but we're going to do Spencer Fry again because he's got one, and we're going to shorten it for the title, but it's pretty critical. So it sounds like you're going to be surprised because I just looked at it 5 minutes before we got on live. So
and usually you'll tell me about 4 seconds before we go live. I haven't even heard this. I'm hearing it for the first time with everybody else. So we'll see what this is.
All right. So today's topic is going to be the secret to successful hiring is this: look for the people who want to change the world. So for our short title, we should say, hey, look for the people who want to change the world.
Yeah.
All right. So that, I tell you what, I love that sentence. I love it. The people that want to change the world, you start instantly with the best frame of reference, the best mindset coming into a new job, new situation is I'm partnering with you because you and I believe the same things. We want to change the world.
Yeah. And it really feeds into, and it's a lesson I've learned over and over again, that culture fit is by far the most important. And culture fit is, for our company, is exactly that. We're trying to change the world here. We're trying to build something big. We're trying to help businesses across the globe. Do you want to hop in and help us with this? So all of the sort of technical requirements are just simply a prerequisite, but that culture fit is paramount. And when I veered away from that and kind of got suckered in by like a resume or a background or this or that, but I didn't nail that culture fit, usually it didn't work out quite as good as I'd want.
All right, so see, that's interesting. That's where you can't just stick to people that want to change the world, because I might want to change the world, but I'm not fitting in your team, right? I mean, I've had both great hires, and people that actually set me backwards because it was such a bad fit.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's where, like I call it culture fit, but it's really everyone has to be pulling in the same direction, and it has to be the vision, the mission, the teamwork, all of these things that have everybody pulling in the same direction. That doesn't mean they agree on everything. If you have a team that agrees on everything and they're all like clones of each other, that you're not going to get anywhere. Like, you have to have innovative thinking, and you have to have debate. You have to have some friction, but at the root of it, everybody has to have that we're going in this direction. We want to excel.
Well, I think it's either Patton or Eisenhower. Somebody will look it up and correct me, but that said, if everyone's thinking alike, then nobody's thinking, right? And I really like, which is, I need somebody to challenge the group, because it's so easy to get stuck in groupthink by meaning, well, it's happened to me in projects, right? We're putting together an idea for a new product. If you put 8 of us in a room, and especially if we're there for a week, we're putting together a big idea, like we did with cash flow tool.
Yeah.
Well, the original cash flow tool was a different version. It was called Flight. And what happened is, after a week, we're like going, oh my God, this is revolutionary. This is going to change the world. This is the thing that everybody needs and is missing. and there's so much enthusiasm about it that we really weren't critically thinking about it. So as soon as we introduced it to somebody that wasn't in that room, they went, it's okay. I might use it.
Yeah. Well, and I think fostering meaningful debate, and that's not argument, it's debate, is really, really important. Debating skills are incredibly valuable skills to have. And at times there's been, like my co-founder and I are just, it's just our natural, like we talk about things, we just sort of debate things. It's never emotional, just like, hey, what do you think of this? You know, and well, what about this? But we get to resolutions, and we get through bad ideas really quickly, and we foster that with the team. And some people are really uncomfortable with that. And I don't even really think about it, because it's like, you have to have that. You have to have those other viewpoints. Viewpoints have to be able to kind of at least go through a vetting process, right? And I think that's critical for business, especially for startups. You can just, everyone sort of, follow the leader. You're just not going to get anywhere.
But well, let's think about that, right? All right, so especially that first hire, that first person that you bring on, what does it mean to you, Blaine, if somebody wants to change the world? Or how do you know that that's what they want? A, and B, how do you know that it aligns with your vision or version of changing the world?
Yeah, like I don't think you ask them, hey, do you want to change the world? But I think they should get excited about some of the things you get excited about. They should get excited about solving problems for your customers. They should get, and like I remember years ago, back in my agency days, we were going to hire another designer for the team, and so we had a bunch of different designers come in, and interviewed a whole bunch of them, and I remember one, and he had a really nice portfolio, and so I'm sort of interviewing him. My project manager, so they're interviewing him, and my creative director is looking through his portfolio, and it was a nice portfolio, but he was focused on the portfolio. That's what sort of his job was: validate this guy's good enough. And this guy, like, as we're talking with him and we're asking questions and everything, he was just like basically listing off almost his demands. And he was more concerned about, how much I'm going to get paid, and like a parking spot, and a this and a that and a that and a this. We just got the feeling he didn't give a shit about us or our customers. And he basically had already thought like he had the job. That was sort of the field that he kind of had the job. Right. And that was like, that was so far off of what we wanted as a team member and everything. And I remember after he left, my creative director, he kind of looks up, and he had just been buried. He was looking through everything, every little bit of typography and everything. He looks up and he goes, yeah, I think we found our man. And because technically the guy was really good. Mm-hmm. And my project manager says, really? I thought Blaine was going to grab him by the scruff of the neck and throw him out. And I said, yeah, I was, that's what I wanted to do. That's why the interview got fairly short. Cause I'm like, get it, enough of this, get the hell out. Cause this guy, like, you could see that he had all the technical skill, but would not care about our customers or our team or anything. Was that changing the world? I don't know. But when we found the right person, they brought a good portfolio, but they brought other elements of let's move this forward as a team, and and it just was a very different attitude, right?
Well, there was two things that stood out to me in that story, right? One was that guy's motivation was all internal. It was all him focused, or that person focused. Yeah. My parking space, my salary, my benefits, my perks. That is the biggest red flag right there is, the internal focus, that motivation to do the job can't be the reward, right? It can't, it has to be the internal motivation has to come from the mission, which is we're trying to do this for someone else. It's the satisfaction I'm getting by accomplishing what we set out to accomplish. And oh, by the way, because we did that, I got rewarded really well.
Yeah.
Right. It goes back to, I mean, something I even said it on the interview today. You cannot chase money. You just cannot. You have to attract it. And that right there is a classic example of someone that can't attract it. They're chasing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So the second thing was the other person in the room in the hiring committee. How did they miss it? Right. This is a person. This is me as the CEO or the president of the company saying, how did you miss that? Right. Because you're part of my team. We're supposed to be aligned, and you're thinking that's the guy to hire. And I instantly think it's not a good fit. That means I need to start thinking about our fit, because if we're not seeing eye to eye, we should instantly, I think, see the same things in the same interview.
Well, and I think the learning there was more about our process for, I'm just working on it, man. Our process for actually interviewing, and how to, we learned a lot from that, because it was sort of the plan was, yeah, you check out the sort of technical side, and we're going to just sort of interview. Mm-hmm. But we didn't have the processes in place. We didn't have everything in place. We didn't have it was a very unstructured, haphazard way of interviewing. And so it wasn't that he wasn't on the same page, it's that he was doing what he was sort of tasked with doing, and he literally just wasn't paying attention to what the conversation was. We just learned from that, and was like, no, we actually have to vet that all beforehand. Then we're talking to the person. So I think we learned a lot from that experience of interviewing, those people at that point, because, a lot of my staff early on, I found through networking. And so I was going for coffee with them one-on-one and it was just, it wasn't, as much of a formalized interview process that we would have now, like we're much more sort of careful and structured now than we were then.
I think we covered this before, but that hiring process, because mine's evolved over time, because I used to just mass hire almost. When you're in a staffing company, you're like going, I need 25 people for 3 days from now, right? So everything's more like you motivated, will you show up? Is your background pretty clean? And go from there. To what it evolved to at Simplex Financials was, I told you, we went from the application to a video interview. And I think I told you about a company name called Jobma, Jobma. And it's where I went through and I created an intro and an exit video of like 15 to 30 seconds. And then I had 3 questions that I videoed. So it's like they're talking to me. It's like going, hey, listen, I want you to, here's what we're thinking. We're doing these types of things. What would happen if, and then boom, take about a minute and a half to give us your answer. And then they have to click record. So I get to see them, they have to think through it. They can record it as many times as they want to, but then we assess their answers based on what we saw, right? So we're getting kind of an in-person interview, but on our own schedule, on our own time. And then from there, we invited people into an in-person interview. Yeah. And it's not an in-person interview because I hated them. I always thought that they're too structured, too like, what's your motivation? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, that type of stuff. Yeah. Which leads me to one of the greatest questions I've ever heard, from like the Microsoft people, but I'll tell you that in a second. But we gave them an assignment. This isn't an interview. This is a meeting, right? Because we want to see how you interact with the executive team. Yeah. How do you present a new idea? So I gave them a part of the product and said, here, this product is designed to do this. What would you change? Or what would you do different? Or how would you introduce this to somebody you don't know? It's just like, there's like 3 parts of the question, which means when they came in, I expected them to walk me through that question, which is kind of cool, because then I get to introduce them to the product, part of the training if they get hired. I get to see how they think through the problem. And then I get to see how they present and try to be persuasive to the executive team. Mm-hmm. And if I like the interaction, I'm like going, that's the perfect fit, because we're going to be working on the same types of problems going forward. Yeah. And worst comes to worst, I got brainstorm ideas out of the interview.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's that hiring process is so critical. And I've realized over the years, like we had such a loosey goosey one to start. And then I remember not long after kind of my first job, I started my first business. While I was sort of getting that business up and running, I was doing some teaching at the university, and I was also I had a contract to run a small sort of a small department at a college as well. And I remember getting called in because they were hiring, a couple new staff for the department. And so I had to go in and be part of the interview process for these new hires. And I'll never forget that. I remember this one interview. It felt like the college had built up this system for interviewing that was meant to make people so incredibly uncomfortable that they would crumble, because it was like, it fed into making someone so incredibly nervous, and had those standard questions that didn't seem to really get anywhere. And I felt like, we're not learning anything here. Like, I know you're checking off the checkbox on your piece of paper, but it's not really learning anything here. And I remember there was this one woman that was interviewing for a position, and I don't remember what the question was, but part of her answer was something about, well, I'm really funny. And there was like, it was almost a frown, and there was no smile. And it was just like, I'm just really funny.
Yeah.
And I almost burst out laughing, because of like, that is the most deadpan thing I've ever seen. Like, there didn't seem to be any funniness at all. Right. Fast forward, we ended up hiring her. She was hilarious and was an amazing person, amazing hire, everything. And I'm like, none of that came out in the interview. It actually crushed it down. And I still kind of wonder, how did they actually hire? I remember two people we hired out of that interview set of interviews, and they were both terrific. And I don't even know how that came through the interviews, because it just didn't seem to.
I'll tell you, if somebody can sit in an interview and say that I'm really funny with a straight deadpan face, that's a Monty Python sketch.
Yeah.
I'm really funny. I'm
Yeah,
funny.
It was just unbelievable. It was like, it was, but they did come up with two awesome candidates. So I don't know if that was luck, or maybe they somehow got through and got to what they needed, but it felt weird to me.
I don't think it's luck, man. I've been around long enough to know. I used to think luck was involved with stuff. There's an energy, and people can say whatever they want to about what I'm going to say next. I think the universe talks to you every once in a while, and just there's an energy that collects, and it just something happens good, and it's just a collective, like, I'm feeling it, you're feeling it, and it's just a great vibe that creates, well, that passion to change the world. We're all feeling the same thing at the same time. And, the universe just kind of puts things in your path and says, here's somebody you need to do what you want.
Speaking of Star Wars, did you see Andor last night?
No,
it sounds like the Force. It's like,
Speaking of, all right, so you're not gonna believe this. I have a good friend whose name is Mike Mylan.
Oh, crazy.
I have two cousins that are named Mike Mylan too, but I have a friend that's not related named Mike Mylan that we met on MySpace a long time ago, right? But his birthday is today, and I sent him a thing on the phone that was The Mandalorian, and it says, "This is the way, Mike Mylan." I mean, and happy birthday, of course.
Nice. Yeah.
That's funny. All right. So remember I said that one of the greatest interview questions I ever heard, mainly because it makes, you can't prepare for it. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to see how somebody thinks through the problem, because you get to see, can they think through logically, rationally? What types of resources do they use? Are they somebody that will spend any money to solve a problem, or are they somebody that will try to think about what in reality that they would do with their own money? And the question is simply this: you come home from work one afternoon and there is a cow in your swimming pool. How do you get it out? That was the question. That's an interview question. And we used it at Finnegraph a couple of times just because it really helps you. I need somebody that's a problem solver.
Yeah.
Do this problem for me real quick.
When you said you had an amazing, I was not expecting that at all. That's
why it's amazing. That's why it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have an answer? How would you do it?
Well, I've had my first thought was drain the pool, put a ramp, and then I thought, no, before you do a thing, you call a cowboy. That's what you do. You phone, I got some farmer, family. So Brent, I don't get a cow out of sweep. Well, somebody is going to have some good advice and it'll be a shortcut.
Yeah, but we heard rants. We heard people would try to lure it over to the steps and bring it in. We heard helicopters with, the little tarp things that carry them, lift them out. But the way they do it, you start thinking about, okay, how are they thinking through the problem? Is it something they could realistically do or not? Right. Some people that comes up with the helicopter and all that, like, I don't know many people that are going to do that. Yeah. Right. You might have to call authorities that end up doing that, but I don't think you're doing it as a regular person.
Yeah. You see, you drain the pool and then you drag the barbecue down into the pool and then it's hamburger by one.
There you go. There you go.
This is an awful answer.
Well, we just lost both coasts.
That was just a joke, everybody.
Man, that's fine. All right, so changing the world, right? I mean, is it just the feeling you get, or somebody can't really answer that, right? Hey, I want to change the world, because there's always a follow-up question like, okay, well, how are you going to change the world? What are you going to do, to change the world? So looking for somebody that wants to change the world, there's got to be some ways to kind of suss that out. What are some things you might look for?
Well, I think that the idea that you're looking for someone that wants to change the world isn't the same as trying, what questions do you ask, right? Because really what you want is someone that wants to change the world with you and with your team. And if they want to do that, if you want them to do that, you have to know, is it part of your context, right? And it still comes back down to sort of that vision and mission. And you're trying to find out, because it's not just sort of, they want to change the world by making a potato powered car. We don't do that over here, right? That'd be pretty cool, but we don't do that over here. So what we're trying to find out is, do you want to help? Do you care about all these businesses, these independent businesses that we care about, that we're trying to help, that we want to show them the way forward? Do they have the same vision as you do? Do they care about that?
Hey, speaking of potato, is that a real thing? Is somebody trying
I just made that up. I don't really know. I doubt it.
You didn't quite make it up, because in Cincinnati, when I was there, and this is, I'm going to say 15, 20 years ago, and they probably still do it. They ran their city buses on used fryer oil, like French fry oil.
Okay.
Right. And what's funny is that the whole town smelled like French fries.
Could be worse. That's not a bad thing.
That's not a joke. They on used cooking oil, fryer oil, they were actually making some type of fuel out of it. And that's what their bus system worked on.
So maybe my potato comment was changing the world. I don't know.
Yeah. Or it's already out there in the universe and you just kind of grabbed it.
Well, you have all these electric cars and you also have potato powered clock.
I have seen that. That's true. And light bulb. I guess you can power a light bulb with the potato. Yeah.
So you actually technically could power a car with potatoes, I guess, just in that logically, except that you'd probably have to have about 600 tons of potatoes all plugged in, which you'd have a long cord and probably not go very fast.
Yeah. Hey, it's about time to talk about my life in the book.
Yes.
I'm gonna give you first cut. Let's talk about my life in the book. I'm gonna give you the first cut of our old timey radio commercial.
Yeah.
Attempt.
This is, yeah, we still have to, we need more
It's actually an
practice at
awesome
this,
product.
but it is an
Yeah.
awesome product. So excuse my my version of radio commercial, but I'm gonna kick her off here. So today's episode is sponsored by mylifeinabook.com. And this is probably the most thoughtful gift I've ever come across for parents or grandparents. Doesn't matter the occasion, could be their birthday, Christmas, anything. It's basically a very powerful way to connect emotionally with them, preserve their most precious memories, and show them that you really care. And best of all, it's an instantaneous gift. You can get it in less than a minute.
You know what? Every week, mylifeinabook.com lets you choose from a list of thought-provoking questions, or even write your own, which gets sent to your relative by email. Then your relative writes their answer and can choose to add any meaningful picture. This happens every week. And then at the end of 1 year, all the stories get combined into a beautiful keepsake book. And I saw a picture of it on the internet. Man, they look good. It's got to sit on my bookshelf for sure. And they can store it. And you can store your relatives' memories forever and pass them on to future generations, which are printed and then sent to you. So you get your own book out of this thing.
And you can request as many copies as you want and even get it in audio format as well. With mylifeinabook.com, you can give to those you love the most precious personal gift that tells them they're meaningful to you and to all future generations. And to save $10 off your first purchase, go to mylifeinabook.com and use discount code NOBODY, for nobody told me. And that's mylifeinabook, discount code NOBODY for $10 off. And I got to say, like, every time I see this, this is brilliant in its execution. Like the idea that, you interview grandparents or parents and you get all this really cool stories and information like that. That sounds like such a neat thing to do, but you know why you don't do it? Because it's hard and it's long. And how do am I going to corner my parents and say, hey, I want to interview you for, this is a way that actually works. It's so easy. It's easy for everybody. And then at the end of the year, you got this amazing book. So I think it's unbelievable. Just brilliant idea.
You know what I like about it is I told you my story about trying to get my grandmother to just talk into one of those little recording, devices, audio recording. I couldn't get her to do that, but she'll tell the story to my aunt while she's sitting there, and my aunt can email it to me. It's one of the coolest things. I mean, my aunt's over there all the time. They live almost next door to each other. She can just type it up in the email. Boom. It's saved not only for me, but all the other cousins I've got out in the world that would love to be able to share those stories down the line.
And you know what, to me, that is like, just going into our topic a little bit here, the idea that changing the world, well, having that history is so important to people. Having that family history that you can read and you can enjoy, you can pass down, is so important. Interesting to see how they would hire someone and bring them in. And that's more of what they're, what I would say in the context of our conversation, that they're looking for is who has this desire and belief and that it is so important to pass on that history. There are people that want to change the world with you. And I think that's how you find that right person, right?
That does tie in perfectly, right? Which is if you're not the type of person that cares about, your family's history or old stories about, from people inside your family that you want to remember or pass down to others, that wouldn't be a place I'd work.
Yeah.
Right. It just wouldn't. So that's a real good example of how hiring a superstar is also somebody who wants to change the world. Now, you heard of Simon Sinek?
No.
He does Start With Why is kind of his, I think, one of his more popular books.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
I think it's like Leaders Eat Last or something like that. I can't remember one of those type of things, but he's got a saying that I think is really pertinent here, right? He says, people don't buy products. They buy why you build the product, which is they don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that's what it is, right? Why I do it is I want to help business owners with cash flow. Why I want to do it is I want to help families, retain their history and pass down stories, year after year. If you don't buy into that, the why, then you can't work there. Just say it. You shouldn't work there.
Yeah, I want people to drink more of beer. It's like, I don't know, changing the world with beer, but I'm just trying
Hey,
to, circle that around.
speaking of, I'm coordinating. All right, I'm coordinating with my brewery. October is going to be my month that's sponsored by Rough House Brewery out of San Marco.
Yeah, that's amazing. I need to get a hello Albertans, hello Canadians. I will feature your beer for a month if you supply me with beer. But you know what? I will say that these craft breweries and microbreweries are changing the fabric of communities. And what I love about it is it's bringing it into small, local. It's almost that farm to table-ish feel a little bit, where they're these local breweries, and they're working with, a lot of times, with small independent food manufacturers locally. And that is changing a lot, to say it's not this giant globalization shipping prepackaged foods everywhere. It's locally made by people that are in your community. And I think that is actually really important.
Too many people miss out on that, which is there is value. And I think there's a shift in our collective thinking. There's value in hyper local connectivity, which is,
yes,
we live in the same area where we do the same things. Why not support each other? And isn't that the way it always was throughout the history of the world? You'd support your clan, right?
Yeah.
We live in, that's really what we are. When I live in San Antonio, that's my clan, and then I have like a little neighborhood, which is kind of even a smaller clan, right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you support them? Something happened in like the 80s and 90s when the globalization happened, right? Which is we could buy goods from anywhere.
Yeah.
I think that we liked that. We liked being able to go do that. But then there's a shift in thinking coming back to, I like the local purchases as well, maybe more so.
Yeah, and I think that's a theme, and I think a lot of times it's starting with food, which makes a lot of sense, because you can have those restaurants and bars and farms and all this. It seems like a really good place to start for that, because it's hard to make some goods locally, because the economy of scale doesn't necessarily work. So it's interesting to see almost like more globalization with Amazon and ordering things from all across the globe that's very specific, and a lot of times even supporting small businesses in completely different countries. But then there's some things that work really well locally.
All right. So what's something you wouldn't buy locally?
Wouldn't buy. I don't know if there's something that I wouldn't buy locally, but there's things that don't, it's just not feasible locally, right?
All right, something made locally that you wouldn't buy, or something that could be made locally that you wouldn't. Like, I wouldn't buy a winter coat in San Antonio that was made and the company was in San Antonio. I'm like, you guys don't know anything about cold. I would buy one from Edmonton.
Yeah.
They know a little bit about cold.
We know a little bit about cold. Yeah. Maybe sandals. We have a whole lot of need for sandals here for a lot of the year. That's where I rely on Birkenstock.
See, I'm thinking even food up there, like that goes back to I would think that the Mexican style food in Texas is better than the Mexican style food in, I don't know, Edmonton. Just as overall, there's probably bad ones in San Antonio and there's probably great ones in Edmonton. I'm just saying, I think when people think about it, like when I want some Mexican food, do I buy it in San Antonio? Do I buy it in Edmonton?
No, that's very true. And Edmonton doesn't have a lot of Mexican food places, but there are some very good ones. And I will tell you, I can tell when it's very good because we spend half the year in Arizona. There's a lot of Mexican places down there, of course. So we tried them all because we love Mexican food. I will say that actually, I still think I believe this. I think the best taco I've ever had, and you're just going to not believe me here, but I think the best taco I ever had was in downtown Toronto.
Really?
And I'm talking, and this was going back 6, 7, 8 years ago. And maybe it's just my memory, but I don't think so, because like I said, we go to a lot of places in Arizona. We get to try. There was just this, I don't even know if it's still there. I don't know if I could even find it again, but there was a little place in downtown Toronto that, and there was a lineup, like a big lineup. My buddy said, we got to go get some tacos here. And we got tacos and we stood on the side of the road and ate these tacos. And I'm like, oh shit, these are unbelievable, like unbelievable. So it's that also goes to, you know, talent can come from anywhere.
I can tell you that the best quesadilla in the world, Warsaw, Poland.
Really? Okay.
I don't know how. The best one I've ever had was at a Mexican restaurant in Warsaw. I even drank beer out of like a skull or something like that. It was like weird. There's a picture of me with a skull drinking beer. I don't know, but the best quesadilla. I still think about that quesadilla, right? The right and tacos. Brother-in-law Macomb, he knows this little food truck across from this little honky tonk type little bar. You just walk across the street. I'm like going, yeah, the tacos are really good here. So it's really weird where you find greatness.
And what I actually think I'd like to mention here is, if I think of the best taco, the best pad thai, the best hamburger, the best, like the best beer I've had, the best, and beer would be tough because there's so many, it's hard to pick a favorite. But when I start thinking about those, every single one is small, local, and the chef is right there. You will never, my opinion, you'll never have the best of any type of food in a chain where it's a system like that. The best you'll have is average, like consistently average.
You get consistent. Yeah, you'll get consistent. All right, right back to the topic. Why are those local places like that? Not only is the chef there, right, that actually has the vision and has this taste characteristic that he's trying to do, but the people have bought into it. The people working there preparing the meal, they put their heart in it just like the chef does. They're like going, yeah, I want people to say that that's the best taco or that's the best hamburger I've ever had. There's satisfaction you get when you prepare that. You're just an employee making a hamburger. But when somebody goes, oh my God, that's the best hamburger I've ever had, that right there is why you go to work.
Yes.
That's the feeling you're looking for in an employee, somebody that gets satisfaction out of that.
Well, and I think that has got to be much more exciting. Like when I see staff a lot of times at like local, like little independent breweries, they care. They care about the beer, and little restaurants too, right?
Yeah. Have you noticed how much they know about it? They know where every ingredient comes from and why they pick those ingredients.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They care. There's this passion for it that you're not going to get, I don't think, at a chain where it's just kind of putting in your time. And it's that local, like they have that, they buy into the vision and they're passionate. I think it's not even as much changing the world in that sense, but they bring that passion. And, you know, like our favorite restaurant in Edmonton here that we're at several times a week. And in fact, I was there just a few hours ago. We're there all the time. They have their staff stays, it seems like, for years. But what always strikes me is we'll see staff there on their off time and they've just come for dinner. They just come with their friends. They just hang out there.
That's a key indicator, right?
Yeah.
Same thing used to happen in my bar restaurants. The employees would come back during their off time. They just like to hang out there as well.
Yeah.
That tells you a lot of things are happening right. When your employees, and you know what's funny? Some owners don't want that. They're like, no, you can't hang out here during your off time.
That seems weird to me. Like it's so amazing to us that we see that all the time. And for anyone that's in Edmonton, it's Rosso Pizzeria. It's I think it's the best Italian food. The thing is, but I think they care. That's why their pizza, they're nothing but the best ingredients. Their beer, it's all carefully chosen. Their wine, it's all carefully chosen. If you get a coffee, it's only from a barista that's like they care. That's the thing I think to me is that they care about every single thing in the business. And what also I find interesting there is, I don't know what the percentage is, but it feels like 80% of their clientele are also like just regulars. They have literally built it off their regular and the regulars, and that's how they run their business. Because the people have bought into that too, right?
Yeah. I always let the employees come back and have a good time. The fear is that there's theft over the bar. Like, oh, I'm taking care of my buddy. You know, they work my shift, whatever it is. But here's what happens with regulars sometimes is that in one of my bars, it was probably 90% regulars. But the new person that does come in doesn't feel comfortable almost instantly.
Mm.
You walk in, it's like, you know, the classic is record player scratches, everybody looks at it, like, who's this? and the judging starts.
I've never had that feeling there. And there's a lot of people I recognize, a lot of people I don't. I just kind of assume there's a lot of, like, there's more regulars because there's so many, but it doesn't seem to have that feel there. But I will say that did happen to me one time, almost down by Tucson. And it was just kind of weird. We just stopped. We just, like, hot day, wanted to have stop for a drink. And we were driving along some secondary highway, and literally there was nothing around. And then a bar. It just felt like it was middle of the desert, a bar. And that was the place we walked in, and it was dark inside. And it was like everyone was at the bar, and all the chairs turned and they looked, and we almost turned around and walked out. Like we were so close to it, but then the bartender said, "What'll I get you?" or something. And we're like, okay.
Exactly right. That's how you combat that as a bar, when your regulars are kind of intimidating like that.
Yeah.
Your bartender has to go, hey, how's it going? Come on in here. Let me see. Look at, instantly recognize them and bring them over. You can't wait. Ever tell you about my winery experience outside of Tucson?
I don't think so, no.
All right, so I was on my way to Tombstone, right?
Yeah.
And as you get on that highway, I'll say it's 10, I don't know what it is, between Tucson and Tombstone exit.
Okay.
There's these signs that say winery 5 miles, winery 2 miles, whatever. I'm like going, yeah, let's stop in for a winery.
That would not be my first thought in near Tucson, but anyway.
Okay, so this is early on in my wine experience. It had to be a good 30 years ago, maybe 25 years ago. Yeah. But so we go down this road, and I was like, oh, this is a weird way to go to a winery. Nothing looks really lush around here, right? I mean, there's a road runner, for crying out loud. So we pull up, and it's a trailer with like an old shed in the back. We're like going, well, we're not going to the winery. We're not going to the winery in Tucson. So yeah, that was my one and only winery experience out there, in the middle of the desert. Yeah, which I should have known. You can't grow grapes out there. What was I thinking? That was,
probably not. But like I've been through, the BC wine area and the Napa Valley or Sonoma, and Ontario has some really nice wine. So I've been through some of the winery areas, and you kind of see which ones are kind of interesting in that. And I do not think I would get suckered into turning off of the highway near Tucson for wine, or in Alberta. I have to admit it. If I saw a winery out here, I don't think I would expect them to be that good. Maybe dessert wines, or fruit wines. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Surprisingly, there's a couple of them around San Antonio. As a matter of fact, in the Hill Country in Fredericksburg, a lot of them. I mean, I'm talking 30 different wineries out there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I had no idea.
But you're right. Okay. So I got tricked by the signs on the highway, and you said suckered. So I got suckered.
Suckered into, well, but you were smart enough to see it's a trailer and a shack. Let's get out of here.
I'm like going, they're not gonna, give us wine. They're gonna keep us as pets. We better get going.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So what's one thing that you see in an interview that is an instant, like, no, it won't happen? Like, you almost want to get out of the interview fast.
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, I can't, it's, I don't know if they're like, I guess like we talked about the one guy we interviewed, and it was all about him and those sort of demand. I think that would be definitely like a sort of that'd be an issue, I think. But I don't know, nothing's sort of jumping to mind. Like, do you even, like, what are you thinking? What does this turn you off in an interview?
There's two things. All right. So I've had people that are just downright desperate, and I kind of want to help them, but they're not qualified. They're not. I mean, there's something that just ain't there. But there's an air of desperation that I'm like going. I don't want you to be desperate coming into the job. I want you to be, excited about coming to the job. Not. The other thing is there's a dancing around a question. Right? I don't like people that can't speak concisely and get a thought out and get an idea out, where it's just like going, well, I think they're calling it nowadays on the news word salad, right? You're saying a lot of words, you're just not saying anything.
Yeah. Well, that's every politician everywhere, always.
It's worse now, I think. It's worse. I mean, I think this collective set of politicians in the world are probably the worst at any point in my lifetime that I can remember listening to politicians. I used to think, oh my God, they're smart. They've got a lot of good ideas. Now I'm like going, I didn't understand what you said.
Yeah. I think it scared people away from going into politics. And so it's, this is what you get. And I agree with you. It's like left to right, up to down, local government through to everywhere. It's just mind boggling. I'm like, oh man, this is just, can you answer, answer a question?
I think they get C players mainly because, think about it, there's no degree in politician. You can't go to school. There's political science, but that's not being a politician, right? You can be a beautician, you can be a dentist, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer. There's no degree program to be a politician.
No, and I know in my first year of university, I took a poli-sci course. It was my one and only poli-sci course. And I think I made it to 4 classes in my exam, but it was the one that was just like by default skip. I didn't have the best record back then.
All right, so we used to call those classes poli-sci, why try? That was our nickname for it. Yeah, poli-sci, why try?
That sounds about right. Yeah.
You were a major. That's funny. So if you go to mikeandblaine.com, you know what's happened? People have started buying us beers every once in a while.
Yes. Yep.
Started buying us beers.
And I do want to thank Chris W, because Chris W bought 3 beers and said that he's a big dry run fan. And I'm curious who Chris W is. So Chris, if you're listening, send me an email, pop onto chat at Dry Run and say, I'm Chris, because I know a lot of Chris's. I'm not sure which one you are, or if I have ever met you before, but I want to thank you for the beer because I really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's good. What you're going to find out is that it's your wife being your fan.
Yeah, exactly. You never know.
She's catfishing you on the show.
Yeah, she probably thinks I have enough beer in the fridge. So
yeah, that's true. She's not going to buy you more beer on the show, right? So but I want to keep the momentum going. We had such a good month, right? Shirts were being bought. And I'm going to tell you what, speaking of shirts, today, Blaine, you were just giving her.
I was just giving you were just giving her. We were both just giving her today. So go and buy a Just Giving Her shirt, and we will just give her next week.
Yeah, hey, you just give her. That's all you got to do. Every week, come back and give her. So, all right, so I used that today, not in the interview, but I used it with the team that works at the TV station, and I got kind of a whoa, like I'd cussed or something. So I explained it like, no, I'm just giving it 100%. That's all. Just giving it your all, right? You're giving her your all, everything you got. I said it, they went.
You don't even notice it here. It just slides right past, right? So.
Yeah, well, you would have thought I stepped on their cat when I walked. But all right, so today we talked about, looking for people who want to change the world. Did you learn anything today?
Well, I think it brings home the importance of having a good interview process when you're trying, because that's really what it comes down to. Is you can say all these things, but really when it comes down, fundamentally, you have to get the right candidates in, and you have to be able to pick out of that group who wants to change the world with you, but really who buys into your vision, your mission, who cares about what you care about, what your team cares about. Who are you helping, I guess? And they want to help the same group. And that's really important. It's just a good reminder that how important it is.
Yeah, the biggest revelation. How much alcohol's on this thing? The biggest revelation I had was that common theme that kept coming back was, does the person want to be the best at whatever it is you're doing, whether it's cooking a hamburger, making a quesadilla, building a cash flow forecasting software like Dry Run, and changing businesses, financial life. Do they want to be the best at that? I think that's a key component, right? If you want to come in and really be known for something being great, that's changing the world, right? That you're known.
Do they want to, are they passionate about it? And are they proud of what you're doing? Like you said, you got the best burger, they're proud of it, and they want to share that, and they want other people to have it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hey, this is episode 57 of Nobody Told Me with Mike and Blaine. You can go check out every episode, whether it be the podcast or YouTube, at mikeandblaine.com. We also have merch. You can buy us a beer and support the show. If you're a brewery out there that kind of likes what we're doing and say, you know what, I want my beer featured for an entire month, you just send us 4 different products, right? So one for each week of the month. We're going to promote your brewery and promote your beer every single week during that month. So if you're interested, there's a spot right at the top of the website that you want to sponsor the show. Click it. You'll get an email to Mike and Blaine, and boom, we will connect with you and find a way to work together.
Yeah, and if you're listening to us on any of the big podcast networks, please subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, please follow the channel. And we're looking forward to next week, where we're going to have another great quote.
Another one. Hey, one more in the books. That's 57. We're on our way to 100.
All right, thanks, Mike. Looking forward to making it. Let's do it before the end of the year, man.
All right. Hey, and don't forget to go check out mylifeinabook.com.